Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back. It is week 10 of the college football season, and yet another week 1 of the college football season. Actually, I think this is technically the last week 1 that we can have with the Pac-12 and the other conference we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. But Carla and I are both unreasonably, and AJ are unreasonably excited. Why are we unreasonably excited, Carla?
Because it's the return of MACtion.
Because it's the return of MACtion, and it's.
I was going to answer it's because my Steelers are 7-0. That's why I'm really excited.
That's
I've given up on college football for the year, and if those of you that follow me on Twitter know that I posted that on Twitter on Sunday. I said, you know what, my college fandoms are in the tank this year, but my Steelers are 7-0 for the first time in my life. So I don't break out the jersey very often, but here I am. Feels good.
Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're gonna start. We're gonna start. We actually, you and I didn't do those, but a million years ago with on Draft Day Suit, there were like college football, not pro football roundtables. Yes. Although you and I do like AFC Central or AFC North or whatever it was?
Yeah, we definitely did one. Because I remember everybody was on it and everybody brought their kids, and neither of us had kids. So you brought Miles and I brought a stuffed animal.
Yes, I remember this.
So I definitely remember that show. But yeah, those roundtables were fun. So hi, Sarah and everybody else and Kim and everybody from Draft Day Suit,
and Lori and all these other folks.
And Lori,
those were fun days.
They were fun. The show started.
This show started. It is where I told Sarah at some point. She was lives in Washington, enamored with Robert Griffin III during his rookie season and second season, and I told her, why am I blanking on the quarterback from Seattle? Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. Yep.
I told her Russell Wilson is going to be a better quarterback in the NFL than RG3 ever would be, and she almost threw me off the show, and I will never ever let her forget that. So. As my one bit of glory from the pro football show, but don't let. I mean, yes, Carla gets to have fun with pro football, and I will not begrudge her that much. But she is excited about this as anybody is, because not only is Mid American Conference back on Wednesday night, every single team has a game. There are 6 Mid-American Conference football games, and they're all on the ESPN family networks except for Miami, because Miami's special.
Within an hour of each other. Within an hour of each other.
I mean, you're gonna start your film exercises now. You're probably already doing that with like political coverage, But click. Yeah. You'll be in decent shape on Wednesday night. And it's going to be awesome. And we're going to talk about every single one of those games briefly, but we're going to do it because MACtion is back, and we're just going to let MACtion wash over us on Wednesday.
Yes. I'm so glad that they lived into they are all in on branding. Like if you're a marketing person, you have to understand, the MAC is a case study, right? Because everybody loves MACtion because it's midweek MACtion. That's a thing. And they leaned into it and said, you know what? Let's put every team on Wednesday night. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think that the hashtag MACtion started organically. It wasn't something that the conference did, but the conference is listening. And so as of a couple years ago, you can buy MACtion pirate flags. And I would own one if they didn't cost $75. You can buy MACtion T-shirts and in the colors of any team in the league. I do have one of those. They do that as well as any conference in the country. They do it better than most conferences in the country. So, excellent advice from Carla. If you're into marketing, if you're a marketing student. Follow that account and see how they handle that stuff. It's actually really impressive. Before we get to that, before we get to the other stuff, we will look back on college football games, Carla.
Yes.
Not pro football games. Okay. Anything from last weekend stand out to you?
Well, I threw this out into our little group text that we have on Saturdays, and you never answered the question. AJ answered the question, but I threw this into the pot about middle of the afternoon before Penn State, before our game, before Penn State Ohio State, asking which conference is the hotter mess right now, the Big Ten or the Big 12.
I did answer the question. I said if Penn State won on Saturday, there'd be no question that the Big Ten is the bigger mess.
Yeah,
I did respond.
It is an interesting argument, right? Yeah. Because, I mean, you look at what happened in the Big Ten last weekend. I mean, Maryland over Minnesota, Sparty over at the Big House, which is hilarious. Northwestern over Iowa. Iowa's 0-2.
Yeah.
Iowa's 0-2. Penn State is 0-2. Your 2-0 teams include Indiana, right? Like, I mean, who saw this coming, right? And then you have Illinois, and Wisconsin, who are battling COVID issues, and we talked about that too. It was just kind of like, well, here we go. And how is that? I mean, Wisconsin, that's huge for Wisconsin because how does that has title game implications?
It does. And how many you have to play 4 to be eligible? I don't remember what the actual limit is. We'll look that up and get that in the notes. But yeah, I mean, they are in danger of it, and after you look and kind of think, okay, Wisconsin's clearly the cream of the crop in the West, and if they lose one more game or 2 more games, they may not get to go. They may not get to. It's peak 2020, huh?
Yeah, and then you look at what happened in the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 has been a hot mess since the beginning, but
yes,
I mean, Texas over Oklahoma State was huge because there goes the last undefeated team in the Big 12. And then this little one just kind of flew under the radar, but West Virginia beat Kansas State. Like, that's a middle of the pack kind of shuffling there. And so, like, who's going to – Iowa State for Big 12. I mean, I said that from the beginning that they look like the most even team, and they hung with Oklahoma State in that game. But man, for different reasons, you could argue either conference is the hotter mess right now. So it's just peak 2020.
Yeah.
So that was my takeaway with just all the weird stuff, and it was Halloween and the full moon and all that stuff, and like sure, like it just talk about living up to the brand, right?
Yes.
Saturday lived up to the brand.
It was. Saturday did.
And we won't talk about Beaver Stadium. That was.
It was weird. I will not lie. I look forward to that watching games in that atmosphere. Having been there a couple of times, I know exactly how loud it is and how difficult it is. And I've been fortunate to see two Ohio State wins the 2 times I've been there. But yeah, that's when, other than watching the game in Columbus 2 weeks ago, so far that's been the one that's where it really struck me at how odd this is. The thing that I was going to say about my look back was I was happy to see Ohio State run the football a little bit. It was, Master Teague got over 100 yards. The team got over 200. They did so without, I don't recall any design plays for Justin Fields. And actually, I think he was negative rushing yards for the day because of a couple sacks. Defense is kind of iffy. This will come up with in the discussion of another game later in the show. I think it's more of a question of experience than talent, and that'll come. But I felt like there was good improvement against a much better team than Ohio State saw in Nebraska. And we're not going to talk about them for a couple of weeks, I don't think. In terms of previewing games, but we'll see what kind of position they put themselves in as we go through November and into December. That uncharted territory. AJ, I mentioned AJ is excited about MACtion, and he will explain why. AJ's also got this old school throwback thing going because this weekend is the first. This is the official return of Pac-12 After Dark, which is where AJ's shtick just got started completely. He's a little stoked about this, but I will let him explain. AJ.
Hello, everyone. It is this week's Group of Five report. The MAC is back. Carla and Crappy will be telling you all about how the MAC is back. The best I can say is that the MAC is the silliest conference in college football. No one is ever better than anybody else. It is all a series of random bounces, but the MAC should be super fun as always. Plus, you get weeknight football back. But I want to start on a weeknight, which is Friday, because we have Mountain West games of consequence. Game 1, 9 p.m. CBSSN. That is the Channel of Champions. San Jose State traveling down the coast to San Diego State to play the Aztecs. Brady Hoke is the coach of San Diego State, and they're very good now. They are running the daylights out of the ball. They are averaging 347 yards, of rushing per game. They are very, very, very good. They are favored by 9.5 in this game. I don't expect that to be any different. San Jose State delighting people by coming out and winning their first two games. They're previously not a winning team, but this year they've come out. They stunned Air Force, and then last week they beat up on New Mexico. I expect them to lose by about 10, but this game should be good. Just watch a Brady Hoke team just absolutely crockpot a team. Just saying, Michigan, Brady Hoke is a good coach. He's down at San Diego State. You should go check him out. The game of the week, in my opinion, is Friday night, 9:45 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. BYU traveling to Boise. This is, in essence, BYU's test. This is the only test that they will get this year. If they beat Boise, and convincingly, they should be in the playoff conversation, full stop. They are currently favored by 2.5. They are, again, as I've been mentioning on the show, they are incredibly fun to watch. Boise is still Boise. They still have a very good passing defense, which should potentially slow down BYU. But at the same time, this is going to be the only game of note for BYU, so you should absolutely tune in and watch this game. That is Friday night at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Moving to Saturday, we have Air Force at Army. Again, option football is always a thing to watch. Both teams are averaging 300 yards on the ground and like a handful of yards through the air. Army favored by 5.5. They are clearly the better team. Air Force does not look that good. But again, it's option football, so the over-under is 40, and I feel like that's high. So tune in to watch that game. That is a nationally televised game, too. That is on CBS at 11:30 in the morning. Moving to the absolutely stupidest schedule possible. The Pac-12 is back this week, and so we're going to cover the entire Pac-12 as well. But I would like to point out that Fox, because they own the Pac-12's contract and they can get the biggest game of the week, or at least the game they thought was going to be the biggest game of the week, Arizona State travels to USC, and they're going to play this game as Big Noon Saturday. This game is being played in California, which means it is going to be a 9 a.m. local kickoff. I don't understand why. I don't understand what Fox paid either of these schools to convince them to do this, but they did. USC is favored by 10.5. We have literally no idea what either of these teams are going to do. Arizona State is, in my opinion, the clear favorite to win the Pac-12 South. USC continues to be the mess that it always is. They are ranked and they shouldn't be, and I expect Arizona State to win. Play the money line. We moved to 3:30. Houston traveling to Cincinnati. This is, again, just coverage of Cincinnati's never-ending quest to turn the entire American Conference into paste this year. They absolutely destroyed Memphis last week. They beat the dog mess out of SMU. Cincinnati is number 6 in the country, and they absolutely deserve to be. Cincinnati play Ohio State. Let's go. Battle of Ohio. Houston could make this fun for a little bit, but I expect Cincinnati to pull away. This does, though, feel like a game where Houston could just like screw around and win. I don't know why, but they do. Cincinnati's favored by 13.5, and I don't expect that to change. 4 o'clock, Arizona goes to Utah. Utah's favored by 13.5, and I just expect the Utah Utes to absolutely pummel Kevin Sumlin's team. This game is going to be just truly, truly painful for Arizona. I'm sorry, everybody. Bear down, but Utah's going to beat you into paste. 7 p.m. UCLA travels to Colorado. Sure, this is a game that is played. UCLA is favored by 5.5. If you are at the Colorado Stadium, though, you can go onto an online betting site and bet on the game from the stands because there's an online casino that is now a major sponsor of Colorado. I've never told a lie on this podcast. Sure. Chip Kelly's probably going to screw this up and Colorado will win. The big national ABC game, the game day game, is Stanford going to Oregon. This is always a good game. Oregon's favored by 10.5, but this is always one of those weird games. Both teams, styles make fights, but Oregon has transformed themselves recently into more of a running power attack than they have been the traditional Oregon finesse teams of the past. I expect nothing more than just an absolute brutal game. But hey, let's watch some Pac-12 football. Speaking of Pac-12 football, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to this week's very first Pac-12 After Dark. Washington State at Oregon State. I'm so excited. It's 10:30 p.m. Fox Sports 1. Washington State's favored by 2.5. This is pure drunk football. This has nothing to do with anything. It matters to nothing. This game is going to be stupid and delightful. And so we should all welcome Pac-12 Dark back into our hearts because it will lead us out of the darkness and into the light. Sure, Washington State. Let's go, Wazoo. That is the first game of the Nick Rolovich era as well. So let's see what Nick Rolovich does with an entire roster of air raid players. This one kind of got me in my feelings. Washington traveling down to Berkeley to play Cal at 10:30 on ESPN. This is the Pac-12 Dark game on ESPN. Cal favored by 1.5? Washington, what are you doing? What happened? What you guys were supposed to be the flag bearers for the conference for years to come. Now you're underdogs to Cal. Yikes. Go Cal Bears. Hey, sure, this game is also going to be just a boxing match where both teams will be bloodied after the first quarter. Yeah, sure, Cal, awesome, let's go. It's Pac-12 football, and it's in the dark, which is all I need in my life right now. And finally, this is how we know the college football season is real. At 11 p.m., it's an early kick. New Mexico travels to the Big Island. It is Hawaii football season. Hawaii played their first 2 games on the road this year. So this is the first home game. Robert Kakala, shout out. Over under 61.5. Hawaii's favored by 16.5. Hawaii's going to beat the mess out of New Mexico. Hawaii is a very good team. They had to go play a game in 40-degree weather in Wyoming. They got beat up pretty bad. They're better than that, and I expect this game to be fun. That has been your Pac-12 Group of 5 MACtion report. I'm so excited. All of my favorites are back. And hey, we're going to get through this. It's going to be great. I promise. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Thank you, AJ. I will be curious to see what 5 a.m. start on the West Coast looks like. So we'll turn that on Big Nude and just see for a second if anybody's awake. We're going to start on Wednesday. Carla and I, we're going to take a quick buzz through the first week of MACtion, and then we have then we'll return to our normal format with games that are perhaps of a little more substance, but not more entertaining, certainly. 6 p.m. on Wednesday. We're just going to buzz through the whole thing right here. Eastern at Kent. Kent is favored by 6. Carla.
It's tough to pick against a directional Michigan. I'm not going to lie, right? That's one of the things that we learned. Kent built up the end of last year. I mean, they're looking to keep growing in this year. Eastern is like Kent was last year, right? So I think Eastern's going to be good. I think Kent's a year ahead of them. So I say Kent opens with a win at home.
Okay. Eastern pulled off the biggest MACtion upset of the season last year when they beat Illinois in Chambana. And then they proceeded to go 6-7 on the year. So Kent is going to win this one at home. Western at Akron. Western is favored by 18. What do you think?
Western has lost a whole bunch of key offensive leaders, but Akron's lost 17 straight. I won't pick against this directional Michigan. Western wins.
They don't row the boat in Western anymore because PJ's up there in Minnesota. But they have more than enough to beat the Zips, who were 0-12 a year ago and haven't won for a season and a half. So, yeah, Western wins that one. 7 p.m., Buffalo at Northern Illinois. Buffalo is favored on the road by 11.
Buffalo was real good last year. We had their eye on them early, and they're bringing back their running back Jarrett Patterson, who was fifth in the country in rushing last year. Buffalo had some COVID issues in September, so they missed some fall ball in getting ready for the season. But Northern Illinois, everything I read about them was like they are the epitome of a rebuilding season this year. So I'll take Buffalo on the road, and hey, maybe they'll get some mojo from those Buffalo Bills that they happen to share the city with.
That could be. They were very talented, kind of middle of the pack in the conference, especially in the East. But Buffalo might be the most talented team in the league this year. I read a couple things where they are predicted to win the whole deal. They will beat the Huskies without too much trouble on Wednesday. My Bobcats at Western, defending Western Division champion Central Michigan. Central is only favored by a point. What do you think?
This is a toss-up. This is the best game of the weekend of MACtion, I think. The two really evenly matched teams, both of them starting new quarterbacks this year. Interesting, when I was reading the previews, Athlon goes 28-27 on Ohio win, yet everything that I've seen shows Central with about a point to a point and a half favor. So this is literally a coin flip. I'll lean Ohio just because, mutual fandom here.
I appreciate that. OU has to replace Nathan Rourke, who is arguably the best quarterback in the program's history. His younger brother is one possibility at quarterback. Armani Rogers is another. We have a rule on the show about two starting quarterbacks. So if Frank can settle on one, if Frank settles on one guy, Frank Solich, OU's coach, I think the Bobcats can beat the Western champs on the road. So that's what I'm picking.
I also trust Frank Solich way more than I trust Jim McElwain.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. Ball State at Miami. My mortal enemies are favored by 4.5 points.
Ball State is incredibly, they're up this year. They think this is their year. And they've got legit returning starters, and there's nothing like saying this is our year about going up against last year's conference champion in your season opener.
Gotta find out quick.
Yeah, so I love this. I hate the fact that these two games are at the exact same time because I think these two are the cream of the crop this week. Just for funsies and because it's MACtion and something crazy has to happen, why not Ball State? Sure.
I like it. Ball State returns all of its skill position experience, and it is considerable. And they're going to upset the defending champs in Oxford, Ohio. It's going to happen. Write it down. 8 p.m., Bowling Green at Toledo. Toledo's favored by 22. What do you think?
Bowling Green has a whole bunch of freshmen and a starting quarterback who's a transfer from Boston College. That's got to be one of the stranger combinations of a two-deep that I've ever seen in my life. It's a whole bunch of freshmen in red shirts and quarterback Matt McDonald, the transfer from Boston College. Toledo is really experienced. They returned their running back, Brian Koback, who, was the second leading rusher in the conference last year. I think Toledo wins this game, but just because of the unknown about what Matt McDonald could possibly do for Bowling Green, Bowling Green covers maybe.
Okay,
but I still take Toledo comfortably.
Okay. I would say if Buffalo is not the class of the conference, Toledo is. That's actually a fairly tight race. They're going to win this game pretty easily on Wednesday night. Although I think the BG could cover. Who knows?
It's line's 22.
Yeah,
it's MACtion opening night.
There's some room there. That is a possibility, guys. Wednesday night's going to be just hysterical, crazy fun. If you got, get a tablet and get a laptop and get your TV out and go through all of these games, because it's just going to be awesome.
And we're going to deserve it this week.
Yes, there is no question.
We deserve a night of levity. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you, MACtion.
Yes, thank you, MACtion. I didn't realize this was coming out. I looked at the schedule while I was working today, and I'm like, oh my god, we have to do this. We're actually doing the show early on Monday. I am tied up with election coverage like for the next couple days, but we wanted to make sure we could include MACtion in this week's show. So we're taping on Monday. It's going to be, and you guys will get the show early, get it on Wednesday morning. There are other games going on besides MACtion, some of consequence, actually. We're going to start with one, I guess. I mean, it's at noon. It's on a Fox network, but it's FS1, so we're going to call it Little Nude. Can we call it Little Nude?
I like that. That's good.
Noon Saturday, number 23, Michigan at number 13, Indiana. Michigan is favored by 3.5 points. What do you think?
You're freaking making me talk about Indiana again.
I think they're gonna go away after the next couple weeks. I trust me on this.
Okay. You're just trying to come up with, just dig that knife a little deeper. Why don't you? Anyhow, I'm not bitter at all. Nope, not at all. Okay. Statistics alone, these two teams look even, right? Yeah. They're even at points per game at 36.5, like literally even. Michigan's putting up nearly 200 more yards of offense, though, but the point is the point scoring is the same. Mm-hmm. Which led me to like scratch my head a little bit, like, okay, so what's up here? So I dug into some drive charts on this. Mm-hmm. Last week in the loss against Sparty, Michigan had 12 drives, 8 punts.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about this with Michigan a number of times, right? Mm-hmm. This idea that sure, they might have a decent offense, but they cannot put the ball in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And they did okay with that in week 1, but now here we are. Because, we talked about this, right? That, oh my gosh, there's possibly a quarterback sighting at Michigan. Yeah. That was your thing that week. And now all of a sudden it's week 2 and it's kind of like, well, same old Michigan. I mean, offensively, they just settled right back in there, and Sparty stole the game from them. Yeah. Because they just couldn't put the ball, they couldn't score. Michigan led time of possession and first downs. Mm-hmm. You should win that game. Yeah. And it wasn't turnovers. I looked at that too. Indiana, Michigan's not turning the ball over, but Indiana's forcing turnovers, a lot of them. And that's been their mojo the first 2 weeks. They forced 3 interceptions against Rutgers, and that's what kind of propelled them, over the Scarlet Knights, even though that 18 pass lateral that Rutgers almost pulled off was remarkable. I really wish that would have counted. I
saw replays. I didn't see it live. So I never saw the forward pass. I never saw the legal forward pass. That looked good to me.
Yeah, I never saw it either. So, yeah, I mean, it must have happened somewhere, but it should have counted. That's like the quadruple doink, right? If you make it to the end zone on 18 laterals, like
4 points or something,
give them something.
Yeah, like 2/3 touchdown, maybe. If there's questions about it, that should be automatic.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
yeah, but that's the Indiana defense's mojo, forcing turnovers. They forced 3 interceptions to get Rutgers, 2 interceptions and a fumble against Penn State. Right. Mm-hmm. So they're averaging 3 turnovers a game. Michael Penix is proving that he's a decent quarterback. I mean, he's not going to go out and win the Heisman for you, but I mean, he's managing that offense really, really nicely. Yep. And they're functioning well as an offense. Now, they didn't do a lot against that Penn State defense. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of have to wonder about how that Indiana offense is going to function, is going to, execute against a Michigan defense that is better than what they saw last week.
Mm-hmm. By a lot, I think.
Yeah. Michigan defense is really good against the run. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter against Indiana.
Not really.
Because they don't run the ball. So this is a tough one to pick. Indiana at home? Michigan reeling? I don't know. I don't want to pick Indiana, but I kind of want to pick Indiana. Until I see that a Michigan offense can score, it's the same thing. We talk about this every year. It's like until I can see that Michigan can score consistently, I'm gonna take the hot team, and the hot team right now is Indiana.
Yeah, it is.
So, and they're playing at home, and I know that doesn't mean much in the Big Ten this year, but it's got to feel comforting to be playing in Bloomington as opposed to playing in the Big House.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck? It's 2020, Indiana, sure.
Okay. There are a bunch of things I mentioned in the first show. Harbaugh's record against top 10 teams or top 25 teams is it's a losing record. So there's that. I wonder about Indiana. I'm not sure. I believe that they're the 13th best team in the country. 2 wins.
I would agree with that.
Two wins. But the Penn State's loss was largely self-inflicted by the Nittany Lions. Rutgers, in spite of appearances in the first the season openers, is still Rutgers. I cannot explain. I've been saying this on this show for years. I have no idea why Jamie Harbaugh has brain cramps when it comes to his rivalry games. But generally, he outside of that area, he generally wins the games he's supposed to win. I still like Milton at quarterback. I think he's head and shoulders above anything that Harbaugh's had since he's been there. If they are able to take care of the ball, and as you noted, they've largely done that so far this season. Michigan should have enough to win on Saturday, and I think I think Jimmy will probably be able to manage this one. We'll see. I'm not entirely convinced, as you are not either, but I will pick Michigan to win this one. Next up, a game that we had high hopes for at the outset of the season. 3:30 p.m. Saturday, the world's largest cocktail party. The game nickname that they don't want us to use anymore. Number 8 Florida versus number 5 Georgia. Georgia is favored by 3.5. What is the feeling down there in SEC country?
Well, it's not as exciting as it could have been, and that's really because of unfortunate injuries. Georgia's defense has been, that's been its calling card this season. Mm-hmm. That defense is fierce, mm-hmm. but they're out a lot of guys this week. Yeah. One due to a motorcycle accident, a couple others due to other injuries. And so you just really don't know what the Georgia defense is really going to look like. Right. And they didn't play this week, right? So they had to bye. So we really don't know what the Georgia defense is going to look like. So that's a huge question mark, right? If Georgia can figure out a way defensively mm-hmm. to stop the Kyles, right, as they're calling them down here, Kyle Trask to Kyle Pitts, right? Yes. That combination for Florida has just been lethal all season long, and nobody's figured out a solution to Kyle Pitts. Right. If Georgia can figure out a solution to Kyle Pitts, I think they win this game pretty easily because that's really Florida's mojo. They don't have a run game to speak much of. Mm-hmm. They've got a couple of running backs, but against Texas A&M, which was the number 2 rush defense in the country, Florida couldn't muster any round game, and they're going up against Georgia, which on paper is the number 1 rush defense. Yeah. So you would think that would give them an advantage. But that, Florida's scoring way more points per game. On paper, I normally take defense over offense every time I get the opportunity to. Yep. But when you have so many question marks on this defense, it's that levels the playing field, really. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to can Georgia stop the Kyles, and can Florida stay disciplined? I mean, that's really been starting with the head coach. Right. And I mean, that was actually I actually wrote this down. I'm getting real tired of Dan Mullen.
Yeah. That is true.
Like, if there's such a thing as Dan Mullen fatigue, I've got it. Calling for a full stadium in the Swamp, and then dealing with COVID issues, and then essentially urging on the crowd after a fight that does not belong in college football.
Right.
Like, out of principle alone, I'm going to pick Georgia in this game because I just want Georgia to win this game. I don't know how they're going to win this game. Stetson Bennett still has his height issues, right? Yeah. I mean, he's doing a decent job, but, is he going to be able to get over, and there was talk this week. I mean, if you go back and you read the Kirby Smart presser from this morning, they're talking about DJ Daniels and why isn't DJ Daniels a starter? Is it still his knee? And, Kirby's kind of deflecting that, but man, if you've got Georgia media asking Kirby Smart why Daniels isn't starting, that's not a good situation. Right. And so there's a lot of questions with Georgia right now, but I don't know. I think they're going to figure out a way to win this football game. And I hope that quiets Dan Mullen for a week because I'm just tired of listening to him yap.
That would be good. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. So even though I'm married to a Gator, go Dawgs.
Okay. I mean, you and I were both expecting this to actually play a huge role in the playoff picture. And now it kind of feels like, okay, who's going to go get stumped by Alabama in the SEC title game?
Right. Lather, rinse, repeat.
I am like you in that I would generally almost always pick defense over offense, and that is the clear matchup in this game. We've talked about Florida's defense being kind of shaky, and I refuse to believe that Florida does not have the athletes to have a good defense. I think that's discipline, and that is a reflection of the head coach, as we are seeing as the season plays out. And that's, that unit versus Georgia's offense, which is duller than it was last year. And you guys have heard me talk about that subject before. So strength on strength, I should go with defense, right? But the Kyles, that's a unique thing. It's a tough thing to defend. A tight end who can run like a wide receiver, but he can still be physical. How who do you cover that guy with? You put him as a safety on him. You try to work cover him with a linebacker. Do you just double him the whole time and hope for the best? Do they have? Are there any other Kyles? Are there other Kyles that Kyle can throw the ball to?
I didn't.
I don't know that's a thing or not. As I look at all four units combined, I think that the most glaring problem is with Georgia's offense. Even against a defense that is fair but with lots of upside. That may be the part where that tips us in the favor of Florida for me, and that plus the injuries that Georgia's defense has to deal with and the guys who are missing. I think that's going to be enough for the Gators to eke this out. Maybe like a 14-10, something like that. Good old fashioned SEC football, right? I don't know if that's actually going to be the case, but I am going with Florida in this game. Congratulations, Gators! You get to go get your butts handed to you by the Crimson Tide in the SEC title game. At 7:30, you can't if they're playing the number 4 team in the country, you can't really talk about Clemsoning, can you?
No.
Right? No? Okay. That's we got this we have this stipulated. Number 1 Clemson at number 4 Notre Dame. Clemson is favored by 5.5 points. And boy, this got a lot more interesting in the last week.
Yeah, it did.
What do you think?
Yeah, with Trevor being out, Trevor Lawrence out for Clemson.
Yep.
So this really depends on, I mean, depends on which version of the team shows up, right? Let's talk about Clemson last week. They got their butts handed to them in the first half by Boston College, and I called that. And I didn't even know that Trevor Lawrence wasn't going. I mean, nobody knew Trevor Lawrence wasn't going to play that game until the night before. But I knew that Boston College posed a strange matchup for Clemson, and they were playing pretty good football. And I thought there was a possibility they could hang with them. And then, I'm watching that score in the first half going, yeah, no Trevor Lawrence. And holy cow, Boston College is up 3 scores. Yep. And I get that, when you have a freshman quarterback starting for the first time, and I had to go look up how to pronounce his name.
Try. DJU.
Yeah, is what they call him.
DJ. Okay, that's fine.
For one time, Uyangalole. That's how you say it. I got the pronunciation from the media guide. Uyangalole.
Nice work. I appreciate that.
So, and it's actually Uyangalole. There we go. It's the third syllable. It's the third syllable is where the stress is.
There's like 3.5 syllables in there before you get to the okay.
Tua Tagovailoa. Okay.
Bob
Bob from Bama. So I mean, so the kid got first half he's out there, no connection. Like, I mean, yeah, they're trying to figure all this out for the first time, right? Second half he kind of put it together and he figured out that the key was just making sure that Travis Etienne got the football. And Etienne only had like 80 yards on the ground rushing, but man, he was the go-to receiver, right? So they were hitting all these like short slants, and that was working really well for him. And that's a good way to get a quarterback adjusted into a system. Is like, let's just throw quick 3-yard outs and let the kid that has the strong legs go run and win this game for you. And that's exactly what they did. So it depends on which version of DJ comes out of the locker room to start this game. Is he going to be the one that got settled into this Clemson offense in the second half and really started kind of figuring out how this thing works? Or is he going to come out as the first half and still trying to like, okay, this is only it's my second start and where's everything? And we don't know. Right. And it's a lot easier to turn a ship when you're playing a team like Boston College, as opposed to against a team like Notre Dame, right? Which has a pretty darn good defense. But here's the question about Notre Dame, and the question that we've had for, I don't know how many years now. Notre Dame has a propensity of starting slow.
Yes, they do.
So if Notre Dame starts slow and Clemson doesn't, this game gets real interesting. Because
I think if that's the case, this game gets over.
Well, but it depends on whether what is DJ really settling in, or is it Etienne carrying?
Okay.
I think the Notre Dame defense can keep them in. It's just whether or not the offense can score. I mean, Ian Book has the experience. They're playing at home. My gut tells me here that Notre Dame wins this game, but these two teams meet again, because they will. They will. In the ACC title game, and then you get Trevor back under center, and then Clemson goes and destroys them. I really think that's the way this plays out, because I think if you had a fully loaded Clemson team, I don't think this game is close. I think Clemson is able to dismantle that Notre Dame defense, but they're playing in South Bend without, and Clemson's on a freshman quarterback. Ian Book came back 4 games like this, right? And so I'm going to say that the experience of Ian Book playing at home with a good defense, and if Notre Dame defense can force Clemson into some mistakes early, and when you've got a kid under center, that's real easy to do. And that's what Boston College did last week. They forced Clemson into making some dumb mistakes, including that 99-yard fumble. It was a fumble return or whatever. I think if Notre Dame can rattle DJ early, force a turnover, they're going to be able to. The Clemson offense isn't what we're used to seeing. It's still real good, but it's not going to put up 80 points, right? I think Notre Dame is able to keep it close long enough to be able to use its experience and win this game at home, and then Clemson destroys them in the ACC title game.
Okay. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable scenario. I want to talk about Clemson's defense. 2 weeks ago, Clemson got pushed a little bit by a Syracuse team that is now 1-6. last week, as you guys may heard us discussing, Clemson didn't just lose the first half. It got stomped by Boston College. It was, the folks in Boston College are like, can we end the game now? Can we just do it for one half? We're ready to go home. I think in both cases you have to kind of look at the Tigers' defense as the culprit. Certainly, Trevor Lawrence not being available last week, that's an issue. I wonder about a couple things. I see similarities between Ohio State and Clemson in that clearly no shortage of talent, but Clemson graduated a whole ton of guys, and they have youngsters in there. They're excellent players, and many of them will be NFL bound at some point, but the experience counts for something. I'm seeing that with Ohio State's defense, and I think that's a thing for Clemson as well. Notre Dame is what it is: steady if uninspiring offense and a very good defense. They're giving up just 10 points a game. I think without Trevor Lawrence, with DJ at quarterback, they're at home. You can argue about what home field advantage means this season, although in the state of Indiana they are allowed to have fans in the stands. I think the Notre Dame's defense can concentrate on you spy Travis Etienne everywhere, every play while he's standing on the sidelines getting a Gatorade the whole time. And then if you're able to shut him down, and you're able to establish a good running game, opportunistic stuff from Book, I think Notre Dame's going to win this. And then I think you are exactly right. They will rematch in the ACC title game, and Trevor Lawrence will be back. And ouch. Yeah. That's gonna hurt for our friends from South Bend. So I would urge our friends in South Bend to enjoy this weekend, because I think it's going to be very enjoyable as the Irish knock off Clemson this week. Boys and or girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those other podcasting platforms. You can watch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. And be sure to come back next week to see exactly how wrong we were this week. Carla?
Yes?
Who could get to 7-0 this weekend? Not your Steelers. They're already there.
Who could get the 7-0 this weekend? Who's the number 2 team in the country? Not Ohio State.
You're aiming a bit high. Coastal Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Coastal Carolina. Do you think they can get there? Hosting South Alabama.
South Alabama, yes, they can get there.
I think so. I actually watched South Alabama was playing one of the Georgias last weekend last week, and I watched a bit of that. And I think Coastal is going to get that 7-0. That would be. Here's the bigger question. And I didn't look up where's Coastal. Coastal's 15th, something like that, 17th.
I didn't look at those rankings today to see where they were.
Could Coastal get into the top 10?
I wish. I would love that. I would love having a Fun Belt team in the top 10. I just don't know how I don't know how you vote them in, because they've got a really good football team, but they play just about anybody from a Power 5 conference. They're gonna get their butts handed to them, unfortunately. So I'd love to see it happen. I would love to see that game happen.
There's a lot of muscle stacked up in front of them. That's probably not going anywhere.
I would love if they finish the season in the top 15. I think that's a possibility. If they run the table, I think they can finish the season in the top 15. And BYU is going to be the thorn in their side, though.
Yep.
Because BYU is probably going to end up, if BYU runs the table, and that looks pretty likely. Although they've got a tough game this week. they're going to steal the New Year's Six bid from Coastal.
Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati, yeah.
Cincinnati is top 10 right now.
Coastal picked a bad year to be 6-0, going on 7-0. Darn it! We love you, chickens.
Let's so watch the chickens, watch Clemson and Notre Dame, watch your favorite team, watch MACtion on Wednesday. Boys and girls, enjoy this week as much as we're going to enjoy it. We appreciate you watching as always. Carla, I hope you enjoy whatever it is that the Steelers are doing this weekend.
They play the Dallas Cowboys. It should be a lovely weekend.
You're going to score 50 on the Cowboys. Come on.
Uh-huh.
because the Browns almost scored 50 on the Cowboys. You're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to do that without any trouble. Carla, cheers.
Cheers.
Boys and girls, thank you for watching. Be sure to come back next week. We'll talk to you then.